For most of the world, Greenland is a place people barely think about. A vast island, cold, remote, mostly ice. But in geopolitics, obscurity does not mean insignificance. Greenland sits between North America and Europe. It touches the Arctic, and it sits above shipping lanes, military routes, and untapped resources. For decades, this geography was taken for granted, the rules were assumed, the alliances were stable. Then, suddenly, Greenland stopped being background scenery and became the center of attention. The dispute did not begin with troops or tanks. It began with pressure, economic pressure, political pressure, strategic pressure. Instead of quiet negotiations behind closed doors, threats were made openly, tariffs were announced, deadlines were set. European leaders responded with unusually blunt language, not because the numbers were devastating, but because the method was, allies are meant to persuade each other, not coerce. When pressure is applied inside an alliance, it sends a message far beyond the immediate dispute. It tells everyone watching that power, not trust, is now doing the talking. Disagreements inside alliances are not new. NATO has weathered rows before, over territory, over wars, over strategy. Some were loud, some were dangerous, but most were temporary. This moment feels different, not because of what is being argued over, but because of who is doing the arguing. The United States is not just another member of the alliance. It is its military backbone, its strategic anchor. When smaller members clash, the system bends. When the center applies pressure, the entire structure feels it. For 75 years, Europe's security has rested on an assumption that American power would be there, predictable, overwhelming, and ultimately reliable. Military planning, intelligence sharing, deterrence. All of it was built with the United States at the core. This is not a criticism. It is a design choice made after the Second World War. But designs create dependencies, and when the central pillar begins to shift, even slightly, every connected system has to adjust. The question Europe now faces is not whether America is strong. It is whether strength alone is enough to keep an alliance together. Alliances are often described in terms of hardware, tanks, aircraft, bases, but their true foundation is not steel. It is belief. Belief that a promise will be honored. NATO's most important guarantee is simple in wording and enormous in consequence. An attack on one is an attack on all. That promise works only if everyone believes it will be kept. Once doubt creeps in, the guarantee does not vanish overnight. It thins, quietly. And when trust begins to thin, no amount of military power can fully replace it. Faced with pressure from its most powerful ally, Europe has no easy responses. It can retaliate economically, but doing so risks escalation and strains already fragile budgets. It can threaten to reduce military cooperation, but that exposes vulnerabilities Europe is not yet ready to manage alone, or it can absorb the pressure, preserving short-term stability at the cost of long-term credibility. Each option carries a price, and the problem with bad choices is not that they are wrong, but that they must still be made. Much of Europe's dependence on American power is not abstract, it is technical. Air forces rely on shared data, navies rely on shared intelligence, missile defense relies on shared systems. Remove those links, and even the most advanced equipment becomes harder to use. This is not because Europe is weak, it is because the system was designed to be integrated. That integration delivered decades of security, but it also created leverage that becomes visible only when it is tested. The shock does not stop in Europe. Smaller countries are watching closely, not to choose sides, but to update their assumptions. When pressure is applied openly by a dominant power, others learn a lesson. Some will seek accommodation, others will quietly look for alternatives. New relationships will form not out of loyalty, but out of caution. The result is not immediate chaos. It is a slow rebalancing, as countries hedge against a world where rules feel less reliable than they once did. Power can force compliance, it can extract concessions, it can even impose silence, but power alone does not inspire loyalty. When countries feel coerced rather than persuaded, they begin to look elsewhere. Not always openly, often quietly. New partnerships are explored, old assumptions are revised, trust is replaced with calculation. In the short term, the strong may get what they want. In the long term, they risk becoming something else entirely, feared but no longer followed. The world does not fall apart when rules weaken. It simply becomes colder. Borders still exist. Institutions still meet. Markets still function. But beneath the surface, something changes. Agreements feel more conditional, promises feel more fragile, and power is judged less by restraint and more by willingness to use force. For decades, global order rested on a belief that strength and values could reinforce each other. If that belief fades, the world will not end, but it will become harder and far less forgiving.